I was like, why not Camaro?
One day, just around the track. Yeah.
That's just one thing.
What's going on, everybody? We are gearing up for Father's Day, and today we are joined by Ben from Gears and Gasoline, the creators of some of the most beautiful automotive footage on YouTube. We have Freddy, also known as Tavarish, probably one of the only people that likes to be punished by cars more than I do. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend. Some say he has no face, but he's got one for sure. The creator of the soapy water, I can't even say it right, Chris Fix. Welcome, everybody. Hope you guys are all doing awesome today.
What's going on?
How you doing? How you doing? I take umbrage with the fact that I do like getting punished by cars a little bit, but you do the VW Audi stuff, which is like a level of punishment that I just can't imagine.
I'm calling baloney on that because I'm looking in the background and seeing a lot of things happening. So
No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. No, this is green screen. It's green screen. Okay, none of this is real.
So,
It's okay.
guys, we're gearing up for Father's Day, and I want to start with a huge congratulations to Freddy, who has welcomed a new member into his family. Freddy, is this going to be your first Father's Day as dad?
Yeah, it's weird. It's a little surreal, and I'm just getting used to the fact that 3 hours of sleep is apparently enough. So yeah, it's fun, and hopefully I'll be joining you with lots of dad jokes and stories, and for years to come.
Well, collectively from the entire car community, congratulations on the new addition to the family. That's super awesome. Let's fire off with some questions, and I'm going to start with Freddy just because I'm so excited of the little one, the little addition to the family. What do you think about your kid? This is like a loaded question a little bit. Your child getting involved in the car automotive world in any capacity. Is that something you're about, or do you want to shy them away from that so they don't have the love of punishment like you do?
So it's interesting because I thought about this a lot, and I had a little girl, and do I encourage her to do more with cars? Honestly, when it comes down to it, I don't care what she's into. I don't care whether it's cars or honestly anything else, just as long as she's happy. But it would be cool because, I have all this stuff that I can, show her, and, at the very least, I can show her how to drive a manual. I can show her how things work. If she's into it, then she's into it. If she's not, then that's fine. I don't have to have my family members or kids or wife do anything that I'm doing. Like my wife, she hates cars. Like she's not into cars at all. So it's just one of those things where it can just be my hobby, and it pays the bills. So that's what it is.
So Chris and Ben, Freddie, I'm kind of on the same page with you. Chris and Ben, either looking to the future for your own potential children, or maybe even looking at the relationship with your dad or granddad or uncle. Who was it that got you guys interested in cars?
Yeah, I'd say it was my family in general. Like my family, from my dad, my mom, my uncle. Like we're into cars. We always every Easter we'd go to my aunt and uncle's house, and he'd have a new car to show us. He likes to collect older cars, so that got everybody interested. And then just in general, my dad used to always talk about Corvettes, and that's his favorite car, and how growing up he'd go to the dealership and go sit in like the 68 Vet, and fall in love with it. So that was shown to me as something that was positive. So I kind of enjoyed that. And he liked the Corvette. I remember sitting in the barber's shop with my dad. We're getting our hair cut, and he goes, what's your favorite car? And I'm like, I can't say Corvette because that's his favorite car. So I was like, why not Camaro? I like the Camaro. And I didn't even really know what the Camaro was. I just knew it was a name, but I had to pick something different. So that's kind of how it all got started. And that was back in the day, I don't know, second grade-ish. So.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that Chris mentioned the Corvette because, I didn't know anything about cars until I was 16, and if I saw any car that looked remotely sporty, I thought I would just call it a Corvette. Like a catch-all name for a sports car. But my dad was always like a mechanic. He's still a mechanic, like very mechanically inclined. And when I was 16, I just spent like a whole summer with him just working on cars. And he was 100% the person that like got me into cars, like got me into tuner cars, taught me how to work on cars in like the limited capacity that I do. So definitely owe that all to my dad.
So tuner cars.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's weird because, like usually older generation, they're more into the older domestic cars, but tuner cars, like what did you start with?
Well, so my dad, as you can probably tell from some of my facial features, my dad is from Taiwan. So cool. He was getting stuff like in Taiwan, they don't have like a domestic car market really. They just get stuff from like, like Japan, like, or the UK, like they would get like European Fords and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He had just like a hodgepodge of things that he was into when he was growing up, and he kind of like, he had like a first generation RX-7 when I was growing up and stuff like that. So like he loved Japanese cars, he loved Japanese car reliability and stuff like that. So like my first car was a first gen Subaru Legacy.
Nice.
And my dad would be like, "Man, this car, they drive this car 50,000 miles or like 5,000 miles. It's like in one day, just around a track." And he's like, "It's so reliable. The Oxford engine is like, like slow center of gravity and all this stuff." And it was like a garbage car. It had like hundreds of thousands of miles on it, just been, beat to crap. But yeah, it was like he was like super passionate about like these kinds of like Japanese cars, and like he had friends with tuner cars and stuff like that, and that kind of was what got me into that kind of stuff, and it stuck. That's still the kind of stuff that I like the most, even though I like pretty much everything.
What a cool car household to grow up in, man. That's really awesome. So you said you spent a summer with your dad, Ben, right when you turned 16. What was the first job that you guys did together that was a success? And then I'm going to follow that up with, which is the first thing you did that ended up as a complete disaster?
I can't remember. Like, it's all just like a blur because my dad is like, he's like 100 miles an hour, you know what I mean? But you would have, I think, Charles, you would have like an aneurysm if you had to work on a car with my dad, because like his answer to everything is like vice grips or like JB weld or something like that, you know what I mean?
But that's the correct answer. That's always. I don't understand what you're saying. Is that wrong? I don't get that.
Well, because I think my dad grew up he grew up in Taiwan. He grew up super poor, so like anything, if it worked right, then it was good enough for him. So that, I think, is kind of like a philosophy that he's had a hard time shaking. But yeah, there you go, duct tape. Yeah.
You know what they say about duct tape? Freddy, what about you? Do you recall the very first job that you did working with dad or someone else, or just by yourself, that went well, and then maybe that didn't go so well, or maybe it didn't go so well, but eventually JB welded itself back together?
So I come from the school of hard knocks, which means that JB Weld was my life. My dad was never really into cars like I was. He would fix them because of necessity. Like I remember we had a 1981 Ford Fairmont station wagon, and
it's cool that it's a station wagon. And I think Eric would be very jealous. Eric, the car guy, would be very jealous of that.
I honestly, I've never seen another one, so they're very rare in that they're probably all junked by now. But I remember him working on it, and my earliest memory was him doing something under the hood. I don't know, maybe he was changing spark plugs or something. I don't think he had any idea what he was doing. But what I did was I found out that Ford's ignition switch could be turned on without a key. So I was just screwing around. I was just sitting in the driver's seat, just pressing buttons as you do. And then no key. I just basically started the car while he was working on it. It scared him a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, I didn't think that it would turn on. Neither did he. So, but everything was fine after that. I think, the biggest, the win is the fact that my dad doesn't have to work on cars anymore. He's like, the next time I have to turn a wrench is I dread that day. But for me, it's like I got a lot of, there's bonding there. It's just like a lot of stuff that you look back and it's like it's fun when it's over, and you look back with rose-colored glasses and you're like, oh, that was a pretty cool thing. Meanwhile, like when you're in it, it's not the best situation,
You're holding
He
that
teach you at this
flashlight.
point all of the swear words and scream at you no matter how you were holding the flashlight. You were holding the flashlight wrong.
Actually, he wasn't exactly like that. It was more like he didn't know how to hold the flashlight. So so we were both kind of in the dark, literally and figuratively.
See, you're already nailing the dad jokes, dude. Good job. I am very proud of that. What about you, Chris? What was that first job that you and Pops tackled together?
So it was a little different for me because the first time I worked on a motor or something like that was actually on a boat. So I love fishing, and my family's always supported what I like to do. So we got a boat when I was younger, and in order to afford the boat, we had to work on it. Now, this was like second grade, so skinny second grader, small me was fitting in the engine bay. My dad would be like, okay, here's how you do a spark plug. And he'd show me on an easy to access spark plug. He's like, okay, now I'll watch you do the rest. And I'd learn how to do spark plugs. Okay, I'll walk you through the water pump, and I'd go and do the water pump. So that's basically like how I started learning. And it was pretty cool because after I finished, like my dad would brag to all the other boat owners, like, oh, my son changed the zincs in the water pump and saved this much money. And the other boat owners were like, how would you like $100 to do my zincs? And here's second grade me like, oh yeah, okay. And then it felt good because they were bragging. And then everybody was like, it was just such a good feeling. And, back then it seemed like fixing stuff was out of reach. It was, something special people do. You had to be a mechanic. You had to build it, be an engineer. And then here's me doing it. And I'm like, whoa, it opened my mind. It blew my mind. And that was really cool. And then I know you mentioned something about something that went wrong and something that taught me that it's not always easy to fix stuff. We were working on drum brakes on our family van, and my dad and I were trying to replace them. And he takes the drum off, and then he touches one thing, and the springs just go vling everywhere. We didn't have time to take any pictures. So we had no clue where the springs and everything went. Luckily, we had a friend who knew how to do drum brakes, so he came over and he taught us and everything. That's how I learned drum brakes. So it's cool because like it was an experience that it didn't go the way you would expect, but we learned so much from it.
That's really cool. And that is also the segue to the perfect advice of doing drum brakes is you always do one side at a time.
Yeah.
So you have another side to refer to when you take all those springs off and you have like 15 parts in your hand and you go, I don't remember how to do this.
Unfortunately,
there's only one way everything goes on, and it's all the wrong way.
Unfortunately, when we took the other drum off, everything just came apart. They were just so far gone. It was a mess. It was one of those like, oh no moments,
Mm-hmm.
Oh no moments. Yeah, I'm listening to you guys talk, and I love those stories. And I'm remembering the first time I ever worked on a car, and it was, I don't know, I was maybe 10, had to be probably about 10 years old, and I'm holding like a push bar up on one side so that my stepdad could like bolt it on the other side, and he like goes to get another wrench, and I'm holding it, and like I'm 10, right? And it's really heavy, and it just falls, and it hits the ground, and I don't remember what happened next. I'm sure it wasn't really good. That's definitely that's the one I remember, my biggest failure. Obviously there's been a lot of successes in fixing cars since then, but I love that thing. And I think with my daughter too, Freddy, to go back to what you said, like, I don't really care if she's into cars or not. I think it'll be cool if she is. And if she's not, great. My rule though is if she's going to own a vehicle, there's going to be things that she's got to know how to do, right? And like, if she doesn't want to change her own oil, that's cool. I don't really love changing the oil in my cars either. Like, it's my least favorite thing to do out of all the car things to do. But she's going to know how to do it and understand it and know the steps to it and understand how to check the oil, check tire pressure. Here's what you do. weekly, monthly, annually, whether you're taking it somewhere or not, I don't really care. But it would be awesome if we had like a period of time where we could share this really cool hobby together. And I say awesome, and the second I said that, the next word I thought was expensive, because dang, if car hobbies aren't expensive, and then you add another person into that equation, it's not like it doubles. I think it actually quadruples, which is why I'm thankful my wife and I don't share a ton of the same hobbies directly. We celebrate where our hobbies overlap, but we don't. She's not into cars, and I'm not into the stuff she's into necessarily. So,
So when she grows up, I mean, I'm not sure how far away that is, but you think that she'd be changing her oil, or she'd be maintaining her batteries?
So I'm going to treat her like Chris's dad did for him, and I'm going to just have her do all the things that I don't want to do until she's old enough to figure out that Dad's only having me do this stuff because he doesn't want to do it. And then we'll we'll figure out where our balance is. Of course, by then, I mean, she's 5. By then, cars won't have engines. We'll be driving around, flying around in flying cars and everything.
And I'm sure Jason Penske will make lots of videos about all that.
I sure hope he does. I sure hope he does. Let's wrap it up. I have one more question for each of you. Ben, I'm going to start with you. What is the best Father's Day gift to buy for said father? Is it a tie, or do you think a gift card's a better way to go? I mean, we can't go wrong. Let's not say car parts because that's a given, or tools. What's something better than that?
Oh, I mean, well, for my dad, JB Well, just like.
I'm going to give you that one.
No, yeah, I mean, that's like, honestly, yeah, like as an adult now, like when I was a kid, like the thought of like my kid giving me like socks or tools or something for Father's Day or my birthday was like, it just seemed like such a dark future that lay ahead of me. And now I guess I'm living in that dark future because like the idea of someone giving me tools, like the tool that I want, like, oh, a new torque wrench, like this is the best Father's Day ever,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Freddie, what about you?
I think tools would be good, just because it, you now have an ability to work with your hands in a more efficient way. But I mean, if we're talking about specific fathers like me, and if my wife is watching, then I would say I would like a Citroen DS that has been on eBay for a little while and it needs some work. So that's probably the perfect father's gift.
I don't see how you could go wrong with that. Chris,
no.
Perfect Father's Day. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys could do it, I would say that getting your father a car is the ultimate gift. Like, I got to experience that, and it was one of the best days of my life. But I know that's not really realistic for everybody. So what I'm getting my dad this Father's Day is a weather station, so he could go check out the weather and see how much it rained, or if it's gonna rain, or what the temperature is. And he likes stuff like that. So I think the most important thing is having thought behind it. Doesn't matter how much it costs, doesn't matter what it is, as long as you honestly like put thought into it and try to do something to make them happy, that's all that matters. And I think almost any father would agree with that.
That's
and I think we can all also agree that an extra bottle or two of soapy water goes a long way for every dad out there, no matter what they're into. So we're going to wrap it up. Big thanks to Advanced Auto Parts for bringing us together, and I will talk to you guys next time.